Hi, Cheyenne.
Hello, Candace.
Oh, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
I want to tell you that I've had several people who have texted me or emailed me and said, "Whoa, Candace, that's Cheyenne. Thank you for sharing her," since I've said Cheyenne says forever.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. So, anyway, I was thinking about today, maybe how to start is talking about how we met.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And so, do you want to tell the story or do you want me to?
Yeah, well, my first meeting with you was at Pine Lodge pre-release prison, which was my first out of the gate 24 years old acupuncture job that I had. And the
I didn't know that.
state of Washington, bless them. It was the first time they'd ever put money, not just in acupuncture, but hired anybody from the state in holistic medicine, period. And so I really wanted the job. I was living in Seattle and I was graduating and I was actually pregnant at the
Oh,
time with Liberty. And I wanted the job. And I don't know how many applied because you had to move to Spokane. It's in Medical Lake, Washington, outside of Spokane. There's also a famous psychiatric state hospital out there. They're kind of all in the same area. But it was a pilot program where people in prison could get acupuncture in conjunction with other addiction therapies. And we were beginning, and Washington, I give them credit for understanding that addiction is very, the people that get arrested for drugs, either with drug defined crimes, had possession or something, or drug related crimes like domestic violence or stealing. Many murderers and people in prison get in prison because they were stealing for a habit, and then they got themselves in a sticky situation where they had to kill, where they made a poor choice to kill someone. But addiction is firmly was firmly a reason. Now there's acupuncture, auricular therapy, which sort of started in France and then got famous in New York City and got famous in Miami in the 80s. So they were more pioneers where they were doing needles in the ears for addiction. The ears are so close to the brain that it can interrupt some of the addiction processes because it's so close to the neurotransmitters. And so you just put the needles in and that it would solve the addiction, even if somebody was a daily or heroin addict. People in prison shouldn't be on drugs every day, and they're not, but the patterns there are for a long time. So it was an amazing experience for me to get started there. I treated about 30 people a day, and it was a captive audience. And I worked there for 4 or 5 years. And to be able to have 30 or 40 people a day there over and over again, I got to learn. I only had a few minutes with each person, so it was great. And then you came in from task, didn't you? Or you were working as a drug and alcohol counselor, and you came in and sat in my chair, and I had you wait in because I was just had like 30 minutes left before people left, the clinic. And you came in to experience it. And I remember needling you, and I think you said, "Don't you know you're not supposed to touch me?" I think that was your first words to me. And a lot of people, when they first get acupuncture, it can be like a major high. It can be an opiate connection. It doesn't happen with everybody. Sometimes it happens somewhere else. But it was an amazing experience. And I got to know you, and we also had a therapeutic relationship because I also, I've had therapy my whole life, and you were a therapist. And so we did that dance, and then we just obviously became fast friends. And you were doing groups at the time, I think, and I took some of your groups and had my consciousness expand with abundance because of you. And you even got me to a gym. I think you were going to the gym, and I joined the same gym that you had because I had never joined a gym before. So that's how we started, right?
That's funny. Okay, my turn. I was working for Task or NUDA, which is the overlining, and I'm not sure if at that time I was I think it was after I married Sam, substance abuse assessment and monitoring. It was our federal program, I believe. But at the time, I believe that we were looking at a grant we were getting to help people with morphine addiction. And so Janice Sutherland, who was the director at the time, an incredible woman, she had done a bunch of research, and she had sent me and another person out to meet you because acupuncture was really good for addiction. And I remember going in and there was, and I'm used to, you know, I worked for Task. All my clients were criminals, I guess you would say, legally bound. And I worked in a prison at some point, and for JRA, and you know, a lot of that kind of thing. I didn't know until now that your clients were murderers.
Everyone, all spectrums.
Well, honey, I wish I would have known, because I probably would have opened my heart more rather than don't touch me. But so anyway, I walk in, there's this whole group. You set me down in one of the chairs with the clients with the inmates, and you put needles in my hands and in my feet. Is that right? My feet?
I gave you some. I gave you something called the 4 gates: liver 4 and large intestine 4 and liver 3. It's opening up the gates.
Thank you. So I left there from the prison on my way back to Task, and I'm like a third of the way there, and I'm thinking, I feel better than I can ever remember. It just was like, and I think my memory was I called you right away and set up an appointment. It's funny, I don't remember doing any helping you.
That came, I think, about a year later. I think you came in for about a year. Yeah.
I always remember how you just knew so much, but I mean, we all have our past stuff that we're working through. But anyway, it was just delightful. And acupuncture, I think for me, because with all the things I've learned and done, vibration, waves, energy, that kind of stuff is just incredible. I understand it more, I feel it more. And I remember one time you put a needle in me and something just shot out the bottom of my foot. And, it was like, and I got it. And last night, I don't remember the name of it. I'll have to look it up, but I was watching this thing on neuroscience and the brain. And they know so much more today than they did before. So I want to, in fact, honey, if I had the brain power and the energy and the brain right now, I would love to become a neuroscientist. But anyway, so that was the beginning of all of this movement of what I understand, because you and I were involved in, on the cutting edge of everything.
Yeah.
And so, but what I want to ask you is, what in the hell is happening now? What's going on? Why is everybody is anxious. Everybody is scared. I'll just say one more thing. When I was watching TV yesterday, I'm starting, well, I'll talk about that later, but I could just feel and sense this. It's like, why don't we this? But it just is constant. And so my job, as much as I can, in fact, I feel really guilty because I threw a bug out of my bedroom, a couple of days ago, and I thought I need to be one with everything. So anyway, that's too far, but still, what's going on?
Well, this is physical. This is not necessarily metaphysical, but the Earth's frequency, which is called the Schumann resonance, is going up higher than it's ever been recorded. Now, I realize people think that we're a young planet, which we're not. But the frequency has been, we were trained in acupuncture that the Earth's frequency was 7.8. And the object of acupuncture was to bring us within the Schumann resonance and just heal and ground. The body heals itself, heal and ground. 7.8 megahertz, it's measurable. Everything has frequency, even emotion has frequency. And we've talked about that too. The highest vibration being joy, the lowest vibrating frequency being shame. And sometimes we can't get from shame to joy, but we can go up higher. And so there's frequencies. The Earth has gone high, high, high frequency. The higher the frequency, the things that are of lower frequency, the emotions, the things stored in our body, you and I have trained a lot with Carolyn Mace and other things. Our biology is our biography.
Right.
And some say that we are finishing a yuga cycle, a 25,500 year cycle right now, and everything's just flushing to the surface, flushing. And so I don't even think we need as many alternative or complementary or natural health medicines that raise our frequency because the Earth's frequency is so high. But that's difficult to deal with because if there's anything untransmuted, it's right there.
Right.
A lot of people have had delays. They've had mental health issues where they've had to supplant certain neurofunctions with drugs, which I totally support, but there's consequences for it. And everything's just so backed up.
Right.
We also have a lot of pure souls here who are empathic and are just eating what other people are putting out there. And so they haven't learned to have the boundary to feel it. And you know, it's when things get higher and higher, it's like a machine spinning, spinning, spinning. Something's going to happen. Many prophets right now, both Jewish and Christian and Muslim, are saying that this new year, which is Rosh Hashanah, there's going to be a kind of a critical mass of expression of that high frequency, where the higher the frequency, the darkness is so visible right now, but it can't sustain itself. So it's sort of like some of the religious people are saying it's the sorting of the tares and the wheat between love and fear. And fear is very low frequency. And some say that there's certain species that are not necessarily human that harvest on that fear over the battlefields and over this. Some say that Earth's much older, or that the book of Revelations happened 12,000 years ago, when Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels and prevailed not, and came on to planet Earth. And so that I believe that version where Lucifer, or whatever the vernacular is, came down at that time. And we've been dealing with that kind of evil preying the earth this whole time. And now we're coming back into the feminine principle of God and females, the mother, which has been X'd out. But anything that's untransmuted is coming up right now. That's what I think is going on.
I'm transmuted. Okay, thank you. That's
and you know, it's difficult. It's really messy. We don't do it perfectly when we release our emotions, and we project the people we live with. We project onto our family. I mean, look at COVID, how people handled it with projecting onto their families or whatever. You know, it's just normal. And so I believe the way to get through it is forgiveness and mercy towards self, and you know, taking some tool, finding some intuition, taking some tool and going for it. And I think there's some tools that are way better than others. My number one favorite health tool is to drop sugar and refined carbohydrates. Nothing could be harder on the body than producing those molecules. I mean, insulin is like a tank. It's very, very, it takes so many complex molecules, like 400 minerals and complex molecules, just to process one carbohydrate of sugar. Sugar is not bad. Even when we sleep, our brain is still working and we need it. But if the sugar system breaks down, I know we know the number one cause of death is heart disease and heart attack and stroke. But the people that get it aren't just the fat eaters. It has to be fat and sugar. It's the sugar that brings people down.
Yeah.
And so it's complex. People don't eat properly. They don't have the metabolic base to ground themselves. If the liver's full, you're not patient. You're the opposite. If the kidneys are full, you're fearful, you don't have courage. If your spleen and pancreas is messed up, you're constantly worrying. And our thoughts, if we had all of our endocrine glands functioning, we are divine creators. In the beginning was the word. And when we shut that down, we create negativity for ourselves.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought I saw deer. It wasn't.
And people don't understand the power of their words towards themselves or towards others. One curse is really powerful. I mean, people are F-ing all the time. That's a curse, but that actually draws negativity to you. And so they don't know that they're just covered in their own manifestation, their own way of thinking about it. Their own way of thinking is creating the limitations for themselves and how we see the landscape. I mean,
changes are not that hard, I think. But it has to be consistent. And I'm thinking about the negativity. One of the things, Cheyenne, I think I'm going to talk a minute about my health. And then I want to talk about that a second. Negativity. Okay. Okay. I'm in recovery, which from MECFS. And I've got this. Myalgic encephalomyelitis.
Chronic fatigue syndrome. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they used to call it that, but it's not really very accurate. It's so little of the whole thing. So anyway, I'm not going to go into all that. But if anybody wants to just search ME, like ME solution would be a good way to search it. And it's almost impossible for me to have something like this and not want to just kill myself if I can't help other people. There's no reason for it. I mean, my whole life has been. So what I want to share about this, well, I'll start with this. When I don't want to go into the whole diagnosis. Hang on, my brain is stuck. Okay, I just got start about love. Okay, so I'll start 4 days ago. That was really helpful for me. Some people, I don't know, people don't know a lot of stuff, but when I was 14, I took a bad ride, ended up being thrown from the car, jumping something, hit the back of my head, was in a coma for 2 weeks, went on to the other side, and Raphael, I didn't know at the time, of course, I was 14. Raphael said, "You're not done." And sometimes I get connected with Gabriel. So anyway, today I don't need to know for sure. So you're not done, you have to go back. So here I am coming back into this 14-year-old body. And then at 15, my dad, who I adored, decides to move back to Baltimore, and things were just really crazy for me. And from there, my brain, started its thing. And part of what that is I want to study this more, but I have petit mal epilepsy. I was looking the other day online about this, and I don't think it's that. There's something we're missing here, because there's epilepsy, which has a physical response, and there's petit mal, which is usually with kids. And it just kind of looks like a, you know, like that or something. But for me, it can go deeper. There used to be deja vu, and it hurts. And I mean, it just is, it's all in, but it's really bad. And a few days ago, I had 4 of them, worse than I've ever had. And I haven't had them for a long time. And it was like my brain was just firing. And I, I want to tell you, I said, the word you say not to ever say. I was taking my dog across the street and walking, and there's a woman in the neighborhood who I had said hi once when walking by, and she yelled at me, no. And I didn't know what that was. But anyway, I was in this mood. So I said a word, and I'm sure she didn't hear me because it was far away and I'm not allowed. But when you're thinking about that, I need to clear that. Okay, thank you. So it was really hard. But since then, and I don't have doctors I can talk to. Since then, some of the things I haven't been able to do, like some sequencing, making phone calls without extreme fear or terror stuff, just, you know, I have extreme PTSD around medical stuff. I have that. Oh, that's what I was to say. So what happens for me in the PTSD piece, over the last, I've been dealing with this going on 10 years, that there was a medicine thing, and it was coming down to a point where it was extremely dangerous. And I've been mostly bedridden for several years. And then it was the fixing it, which was really slow. So my brain has not been doing well. Thank you, God, that I moved from being a therapist to just doing my psychic work, because that I can do. I don't need this stuff. And better, by the way. So what I wanted to say about that is, during the PTSD, and I want other people to understand this, because almost every woman in their life has some kind of trauma response, and I don't even need to go into that. But during that, my brain wasn't working. I'm in bed, I'm watching TV, I've got my whatever. And then I get this thing, and I'm on the computer, talking to my doctor, the medical system here, who's the people who oversee doctors and file malpractice. And I mean, when I'm there, I'm like as sharp as a tick at just that. But when I'm not in that space, then, I forgave my doctors before the end of last year, because I wasn't coming into this year with that on my heart. And I send love, and I go to sleep with gratitude, and I have gratitude all the time. So I want people to understand there's a difference between an illness that drives you at times and who you are. And for a long time with this, for years, in fact, I told you earlier, today was the first time I was watching Blue Bloods. I like Blue Bloods. And I cried. And I've cried with clients a lot in the last few years. But it's been it's been an issue. And it's like I've tapped into the whole thing, and I just take it on and let it move. It doesn't hurt, but I could feel it. But this was an actual, I'm back in my body kind of cry, which was very good. Excuse me. So I want to just remind people that if you have ME/CFS, or if you have some trauma kind of thing, understand it's very different. Love yourself for the pain and the suffering and the difficulty, and forgive yourself and forgive the other people, and be really gentle with yourself. So anyway, I may or may not have, I think one of the big points was just being thankful for everything, because my body runs that, not that I can't be a real tough cookie, but yeah. So anyway, honey, I need to get a tissue. Would you keep talking and I'm going to run over here a second?
Sure.
Okay.
You did say that change was not hard, and I kind of disagree. I think change is not easy, but it might be simple, but I don't think it's easy. I don't think change is easy.
No, did I say change was easy?
No, you said it wasn't hard. And I think that it can be kind of hard. I mean, what we're going through is not easy, is what I'm saying.
Right. Well, I'm just barely in my body. So I'm still, and that's how I looked at it that's what I wanted to say. For years, I could see everything, negative, positive. I was so detached from it. And then as I started kind of thawing out or getting healthier, whichever it is, into this vibration. And this is a really, really harsh vibration. I live down here by the river. I've got the forest around me all the time. And but people need to understand, if you're stressed, if you're fearful, get your feet outside on the ground or get nature around you. Or I actually, honey, feel at the point where the consciousness of humans at this time has been so poorly integrated that the earth is becoming not our home and what we love, but what we fear and want to, so anyway, we've got to stop it.
Yeah. And I think that's because our divine self and our physical self the vacuum bags are full. Every vacuum bag in here is full. And
what do you mean by that? What do you mean?
I mean, like the glands, our pituitary, our thyroid, our liver is full. We have so many toxins and so many emotions and so many things that it's not that something's wrong with us. It's just that joy can't penetrate. I mean, hormones are what make us happy. Accessing blood fat with cortisol. Cortisol can dig out the fat for us, the stored fat. Some people can't even dig out a stored fat. So things get stored and stored and stored and stored. Grounding, as you mentioned, to me is the number one way to clear it. But if you're in a city slicker and you're living in a 12-story building and you got 24 to 40 Wi-Fis running through your head, and you start your day with sugar or something like that, so you're already at a deficit and you're completely fatigued. Digestion takes 1/3 of our energy. Most of that is to process the sugar.
Yeah.
We're at a deficit. And then, we've have cuts in our body, we have chemicals, we have other things. I think we're miracles to be surviving here with what people have survived with.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't mean to be negative about this, but it is a lot. And I agree with you, honey, with sugar. I just want to tell people, if there's anything that I could do or did do that helped the most, was getting rid of the sugar. And for me, I ran on sugar because I was a workaholic, and caffeine, and I don't do much of either now, but I do some. But the thing with sugar, once you have a little bit of sugar, then the sugar craves sugar.
Oh yeah.
And then it's gone. But if you can get off of it, and I use what transitioned me, and I've done it probably not well, I've done it with lots of enthusiasm, was like keto kinds of treats, chocolate keto kinds of, and that transitioned me, which really helped. And so now when I wake up, my body, what it craves is like a little protein drink, that gives me all the high quality nutrients right away. And so anyway, thank you for that.
And thank you for being that. Anything that transition is great. If you start your day with sugar, or you get that really those lattes that have the whole day sugar in it, you start your day like that. You don't try to quit sugar cold turkey if you eat sugar all day. You wait until the afternoon. Well, if you can't make it to the afternoon and you hit the sugar at 7 o'clock, wait till 7:30 the next day. And the next day, wait till 8 o'clock. Just be kind. Even
Yeah.
me, you know what I say when I eat a little sugar? Sugar's not so bad. I mean, it destroys your will. I say it's not that bad.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's an amazing drug.
Well, honey, I just want to tell you, I'm so happy you're human.
We need emotional support. And so if you don't, people get that through sugar, they get it through drugs or alcohol, or they get it through dairy. A lot of people get it through night eating. If you are a night eater, don't eat carbs, eat refined carbohydrates, find something else, and you won't be that hungry.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my go-tos to recommend to my clients are sunflower seeds and raisins to carry around, because you get that fructose, which is much more easy to digest than the sucrose, and you get a little protein. Nuts people have a hard time with, but seeds like pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds are good. But don't mix the sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds. Just eat. And there's a reason for that, but just take a few seeds. If you have them and you're hungry and you're in your drawer there at work, or maybe you drive at work or do something else, pop those in your mouth, and that'll give you the time to get something sensible.
Right. And that's the thing, is giving yourself enough that you don't get into that hungry place.
That comes from self-love and self-care. Is putting your diet first, not going to the supermarket when you're starving, because the supermarket is your pharmacy. So you go there when you're totally satiated. And then you go walk into the pharmacy and look around the outer part of the store. Anything on the inner part, just forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. So one of the things that you talked about was forgiveness, mercy, tools, and using intuition. And so I'm wondering, well, I'll share mine, and what are your daily tools? What helps you the most?
Well, prayer helps me the most, a great deal. Forgiveness is hard because I know that some people don't deserve quote unquote forgiveness. They deserve judgment in a way. They deserve something, especially perpetrators. But we are tied to who we love and who we hate. And so it helps us wax neutral and bring something to a 0 point. Forgiveness is in all the religions, so connecting to someone, let's say someone hates someone. I mean, people even have this much hate for people they don't even know nowadays, because they're online and they generate all kinds of hate. So let's say they hate someone online, or they hate a figure or something. Just, I would just say, I use Ho'oponopono, and it goes something like this. Let's say I don't like this person. So-and-so, I love you. I'm sorry for hating you. Please forgive me and thank you. It's that simple. You don't dwell in groveling about forgiveness. The forgiveness is for you to detach you from that. So we're tied. Our fears are magnets. They say worry is a magnet. Worry is a prayer for what you don't want to have happen. And so, sports psychologists don't.
Worry is a prayer. Say that again.
Worry is a prayer for what you don't want to have happen.
Wow.
Oh, I'm so afraid my daughter's going to get in an accident. She's driving from Texas. She's going to be here. I'm so worried. Yeah. What good is it? It's putting all that energy and visualization into the thing you don't want to have happen. One of the things, even if I'm really down, is I try to bring myself to gratitude, which is, joy is hard to hit. It's the highest frequency, but gratitude, you can just say, thank you for the rain, or thank you for whatever this pain is giving me. I give gratitude for it, even though I'm having a hard time with it.
Yeah.
And then it creates a different non-victimized relationship with whatever that substance is. And it helps you think. You can get into such negative thinking patterns that you'll keep yourself from doing good things.
Yeah. Yeah. Or keep yourself from doing anything.
Right.
Yeah. The thinking, do you agree the thinking is a big, big part of this? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so grateful that I learned CBT and, did all that learning in college and working with clients, and I like imagery too. I use that to change. But I remember when I was a smoker, I used to image the cigarette stuff that I was thinking about. I would say kissing me is like licking an ashtray. And I would image it, and it worked. It was such a, so many of the parts of you, that. So
But sometimes that requires therapy and forgiveness. Just saying, sometimes it requires breaking it down. If you've been a victim of sexual abuse for many years, or
yes,
other kinds of things, or maybe your love language was words of affirmation and you never got that in your family, not one word. It was like, you're a filthy rag before the eyes of God, or you'll never amount to anything. That sometimes requires tapping, that requires going through it. It requires letting the anger go up. It requires reframing it. So it's
right,
not necessarily easy. The
right.
process might be simple. It is just reframing. And there's lots of programs out there where people get a new life, a new head, a new brain about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we'll do some tapping at some time. But one of the things I've been thinking about also a lot is how we're shaped. And, by our childhood. And I do want to say, you and I both have been through hundreds and hundreds of workshops, and we've helped thousands of clients, and we've done our work, as well as we could along the way. So, if you're new at this, I don't mean to demean the level of
Right.
feeling and that, and especially I'm just waking up, although I remember. But so what was I going to say? Shaping. Yeah, so becoming aware, and I'm really looking at this because I have two personality things I'm looking at. One of the things I'm really aware of, and I've said over and over and over again, but nobody I think can hear me or whatever, is I've said I've always wanted to be a priest. And it's I look back and sneaking out of the house to go to church, and then later having my dad, or the preacher at the door, and my dad meeting him with the rifle. And yeah. And so there's that force. My dad, who I adored, excommunicated from, not quite, but from the Catholic Church for marrying my mother, the harlot who was a divorced woman.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, but I've been drawn to that forever. And I don't even think about it. I was just thinking when I was walking in India down a block to go to where Mother Teresa of Calcutta is. I was a block away with my friend Raja, and I didn't know where it was, but I just started crying, and so I'm just so grateful. But the other part of me, I grew up, you're younger than I am, you had different
generation.
a little bit, yeah, but I grew up with Bonanza. And my dad, I grew up at the poker table with my dad, and at the racetrack, handicapping horses, and excuse me. And so now, at a woman at age 67, I'm just looking, at how I was shaped, and around sexuality, and around independence, because all the male women were in my family. My mom was abused, and it just wasn't a powerful place to be.
Right.
And so looking at that and trying to, I think it's the duality of the consciousness that we have, which we're shifting out of into the next dimension. But that's in this world, the third dimensional, the God thing, and the sexual, independent, beautiful, powerful, feminist woman, who likes to dance and wear cowboy boots and hat until it got stolen, versus the whole spiritual thing. It's like this. But in the other dimension, in a higher dimension, in the fifth dimension, it just is like this. It's all one. It's not that if you're this, you can't be any of that. And I guess I didn't plan to talk about this, but honey, I think this is what we need. We need to pull who we are, and it's okay. When I watch TV, the politicians and all of that, there's nobody in this world I would feel intimidated by standing with, because it's put on. It's not anything. I see people, and anyway, so that's what we need. It's not about them, it's about, we need to do it with us. I need to love the woman in me that is this and all of the other things. And I want other people to do that. So when we get into that negative self-talk, to grab it, and believe me, this is how I've worked it the most. I got real clear on the belief or what I'm saying. And then you mentioned tapping earlier. That's a good way to heal that.
Some of it's pre-verbal. I mean, I've seen this, and I have spoken up even in public where someone's changing a kid's diaper and will say something, "Ooh, yucky, stinky diaper." Or I see people treat their dogs, hurry up, take their dog out or something. When, and so sometimes that command needs to be released. So, if you have a child, if they're moving their bowels, they need to be commended for that. Like, good job. You're working. Good job. Come on, let's do it. Sometimes it's just as simple as that. The constipation, if they can clear that, what I would call a curse or a Bardo command, if they can clear that out of their system, it really is our thinking and our attitudes and our brain power is so powerful, and our words are so powerful. It took me a while to realize that. And even if I was feeling negative, to shut the front door about it. Not that you don't talk about it therapeutically, but to go over and over again is creating it over and over again. So try to go and complete it with someone, with a witness, really helps. That's what that,
12 step.
And some people are hermits, and you have to get it declared on your own. You can have a self journey. There are people that are able to do that. I do think it's great if you have two people to row the boat in life with in the same direction. And we're coming to that. We're going to find that power. Where we come together, row the boat in the same direction. When two people hug, it's the power of four. The heart comes together. It's so explosive. It's the power of four.
That exponential.
Yeah.
When you were talking about the pre-verbal, I remember when I was in Boise in the 80s doing a workshop on, I think it was an OA workshop, maybe.
Overeaters Anonymous. Okay.
And that's sugar. And they blindfolded us, and we walked around, and did this kind of thing. Well, somebody poked me, and I went down on the floor. It was all carpeted, and I just curled up and cried and cried and cried. And what I got, when I was down there trying to get into what this was, is I have a brother, my brother Carrie, rest in peace, love you. I was he was 5 when I was born, and I was about 4 months old, and he was just it's like a baby, and he was just poking me, and it wasn't hard, like mean or anything. It just was, and when I got that, then it just cleared, but it was stored in my
Yes.
body, and it was like,
Yes.
oh wow.
We don't know everything that's stored there. Sometimes it comes up. You've probably in therapy had people, I've had people full body shaking, and you can't be afraid of that, because if the body's going to release like that, that's awesome. I mean,
Right.
animals do that. An animal gets hit, maybe it doesn't get killed, but it goes to the side of the road, just shakes and shakes and shakes, and then it's out of its system, and then it just walks off.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. When people are in that process, it seems kind to go hug them or
Mhm.
something, but most often it's good to leave them alone and not stop their process. Yeah.
Especially crying. When you mentioned you cried and what a relief it was, but the actual spiritual, mental, and emotional material actually comes out in those tears.
Mhm.
And so if you're about to cry and you hold it back, that's like constipation. That's like having a bowel movement and holding it back.
Mhm.
So if you haven't been able to cry, encourage yourself to cry. Watch a movie or something,
Yeah.
and let it out, because otherwise it builds and builds. Or like you said, go out in nature. And sure enough, after you've rested and grounded enough, whatever emotion is there, it's not always grief. Sometimes it's anger or something else will come to the surface, and it's better out than in. And if somebody hits you with a pile of crap, and there's lots of people, we're seeing videos of people just walking by and punching people, or really unloading with all the curses that you can imagine. If you can not make that mean anything and let it wash off your back, because that anger is actually better outside of that person than killing them on the inside. And so we're going to have some mercy. We're going to have some patience. We're going to have divine compassion for what's erupting in people. You and I have a lot of skills, and look at the difficulty that we still have.
Mhm.
Some people don't have those skills.
Yeah.
So they need the love and mercy of the people around us. And it will keep you from drama by holding that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, boy, this is wonderful. I think I'd like to maybe, for my part, just finish with a couple tools that I use that are real helpful. I really like the Donna Eden zipping up,
Oh, yeah.
where you zip up from, like, you have a jacket on and it's your central nervous system. You just zip up, and right under your lip, you lock it. You do it 3 times. And then you over your head and the top of your lip, and you lock it. That's one of the tools that I use a lot, especially, I don't go out much anymore, but if I were to go into a mall or a hospital,
Yes.
sometimes people I'm around, I'll zip up first.
Yes.
And so I want to just, and the concept of this, well, I don't know what her concept is, but my concept is, we have all of our chakras here, and people can throw energy at us, or they can attach to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, well, let me go off a little bit. If there was one thing I would say for people to do, I have that 12-minute audio of clearing the chakras and grounding yourself. I think this comes from the Church of Divine Man, grounding yourself, running your energy. And so I did a video or an audio on that, and it's free. If anybody wants it, let me know. Maybe I'll
Maybe link that below.
Yeah, Yeah, thank you. That's a good idea, honey. That would be my first thing, because then nobody is in your space but you. And when
Mhm.
you're running your own energy, you feel good. The second one is the zip up. So those are my two main things. How about you?
Well, I want to just echo that. Video is very good about grounding. And I don't know if I said it with anxiety, but anxiety can go out like this. But when you ground, it can go down. It can go into the earth. So if your grounding cord is shut down, and sometimes it is, this meditation is really good for opening that up. It's very scary when the fear flows for a moment. You almost feel like you're going to die. But if you can breathe through that and just allow your grounding cord to be open, that's a great, great tool. So please link that below, Candace. That's great.
Yeah, it's an audio. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
What else, honey? What's your, and that I would say I would do that every day for 30 days until you get it, or as many days as you can. The other thing I do now is I'll just look at myself on a screen and just do this. And I can just clear and ground myself. Now, some days I can't do it that way. I need to do the physical, but the more you do it, I've been doing it for what, 20, 30 years. So yeah.
I would say create a cross breeze in your home and open the windows. The Europeans, even in the middle of the winter, they open up every window. Hospitals, for example, haven't opened up a window in 30 years. So you're going in there and why is my adrenaline running? You can actually step through the door, and the pheromones that are in there, people will measurably start running high anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Our homes are an extension of ourselves. So keeping the place we sleep as clear as possible, changing the sheets, opening the windows. If you are going to buy a home, make sure you have a bedroom that can be ventilated and a bathroom that can be ventilated. Otherwise, all that stuff, if the trash is there, take it out of the house every day, because that is our snot. That is everything we've had the day. It's old, change your cat litter in your house often. Cleanliness is next to godliness. And it's really important to keep our area clean just as much as it's important to keep something inside of us clean. And so it doesn't take long. I'm not telling people to make their bed, although that was my New Year's resolution, and it's been very helpful. It only takes 2 minutes. I have only a twin, but it just somehow, even mentally, like you said, clearing the space. The other thing is that I do is when I meet someone that I don't know, or I'm taking a bus, I actually acknowledge their I am presence, or the higher part of themselves. Or if I'm going to a doctor's office, or I'm going to this, and it just takes a moment, and it seems like we have a higher vibrational exchange. So just having that one moment of thinking about a person's, or even someone you're in conflict with, just bringing in the good part of that person. I think it's really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah. Well, this feels really good. Probably time to close. I would ask people to please, if you want to leave a comment and let us know what you want to know more about.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah. So
well, thank you for the opportunity, Candace. And it's great to be here and just connecting with the world in some way.
Yeah. Well, it's the highlight of my day, honey. I love you.
Me too. Love you and love you all.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.